Hello, we're in England looking at a little book, a travel guide, modern travel guide, published by the Houses of Parliament, otherwise known as the Palace of Westminster. The Palace of Westminster is royal land and is not subject to the general day-to-day laws of the land, just as a passing comment. So this building in the centre of London is a modern building. It was built in the Victorian era, and it's a 19th century building. It looks like an older building. It looks like a French building. They didn't have that particular shape in France, but this has elements from France. For example, you have the tower, the Gothic panels, the small Gothic spires, which you will find on medieval churches and cathedrals in a different layout. But that is French architecture used by the English to build Houses of Parliament. Tower Bridge in London, which has got the two stone towers, and the lifting bridge has got little round corners. Though that you have them in Scotland, that Tower Bridge in London is a French design again. It's a French style Victorian modern bridge. It's made of cast iron. The stone is a cladding, and if you took all the stone off it, it would still work. The caissons are contained within the boat-shaped piers, which split the water as it goes through, and the weight of the lifting bridge, which is hinged with a counterbalance, is powered by steam. Was powered by steam. It's not anymore. It's electric now. So you've got this French architecture, which was used in England, and it was used in two of the most famous buildings in England. The Palace of Westminster and Tower Bridge. If you look at Buckingham Palace, you might say, well, that looks very English. Well, it's not very English at all. It's Palladian, it's Italian. All the houses and churches in England with the pillars on the front and the triangular pediment, portico, all of them are designed in the style of Italian, Roman, Greek buildings. So that's the truth of it, whatever anyone says. England itself, as a country, was founded in 1066 when King Harold was killed by William the Conqueror, who was French Norman. The Normans themselves not really being that French. There was Viking blood there. So you can see it's a hell of a mess, and people nowadays find this French aspect rather confusing. The English football team has 3 lions on the badge. 3 lions are a French device. It's not an English device. If you look at the Prince of Wales, he has a fleur-de-lis as his symbol, three feathers. They are not English feathers, they are French feathers. And most people in England have got, well, it's not fair to say that, many people in England have got French names, surnames and Christian names. And much of the language, of course, as we know, is French, which itself is Latin. So when we're looking at this building, if we understand the background, it becomes very, very much less confusing. So we'll go to the book. I'm not going to just repeat all of the things it says in the book, which you can pick up on the internet or by looking into any guidebook about it. I'll just pick up the things I find interesting. I hope that you find them interesting as well. We'll start with this building here, which has been built next to the original Palace of Westminster. This was built, I guess, 30 years ago, and this has a matching design. The turrets are containing air conditioning units, and these fake gables, which are actually on the pitch of the same roof, are designed to mimic this building. When they built it, they made a mistake. The bronze they used went black, and it was meant to go golden, like all of the bronze and brass. Sorry, all the bronze and cast iron here. So when you see this building, it's a good building, and it matches very well. You'll notice the bronze is the wrong colour, and there were some problems with the builders. So it's a complex, and the House of Parliament are not a dwelling, they are an office complex. That's what they are. So we've looked in previous videos recently at Pugin and Burgess and some of the people who furnish and design these places, and they were building in the Victorian era railway stations, schools, hospitals, barracks, libraries, public buildings, palaces and houses, of course, and town halls. Nearly every town in England has got a Victorian town hall, a Victorian hospital, a Victorian police station, and lots of them are very similar. So you can see this particular palace is using medieval design. It's regurgitating older designs. They are using bright coloured paint on the woodwork, which many people will think is not original to the medieval versions, because when you go into a medieval church, they're nearly always muted and just natural colours. But a lot of the medieval woodwork was in fact painted in bright colours. When you see a Roman statue of Apollo or a Roman marble statue of Hadrian, you'll see a white marble statue with no colour, but they were painted when they were first made. The eyes often have no detail, and the detail would have been painted on, and the cloaks would have been in reds and blues and purples. And again, people are accustomed to these marble statues being plain, but they weren't plain when they were made. Lots of these beautiful hammer beams, which are used to support the roof so that pillars could be taken out, buttresses, and beautiful architectural designs. And this Parliament is not the first version of the Parliament in England. The first Parliament was held in a field and outdoors, and there are records in the Midlands. I think it was called Witan, I'm not sure. In the very early Dark Ages, that there were these assemblies, which then became indoor assemblies and more organised. And it was a way, originally, before democracy as we know it, it's a way of the king taking advice. That sounds rather strange for a king to take advice, but it was a way of the king taking advice from the people who mattered, which were on the whole landowners and clergy. Some of the landowners would have been given land by him and would be loyal to him. If you look at King William the Conqueror, who came from Normandy in 1066, he just took the land off who he wanted and gave it to his own people, and they became loyal. And the English who backed down and fell in line were allowed to stay in their ancestral homes in England, rather like what the English did to India when the princely states, where the English would let the Indian Maharajas stay to look after their people, if the English could look after the trade and the tax and the military. So it's all history repeating itself. The Romans did it to England as well 2,000 years ago, and the Normans did it as well 1,000 years ago. So we have this Parliament building. I'm digressing. The building is richly decorated and furnished with, as I say, lovely colours, plenty of oak in this medieval revival style. This looks like a church, really, this assembly room, in many ways. Most churches in England of a medieval era have this sort of effect, where you have a central focus, which in this case is a throne. Could be an altar. You can imagine this being a church, and what the choristers would sit on these perches, and they would sing the prayers. But of course, in this case, they are the MPs or the Lords. I think that's the House of Lords. Marble floors. Much of the marble was probably from the British Isles. Some of it probably was imported, but there was enough coloured stone in England and the rest of the United Kingdom. These are fan vaulted ceilings, beautifully made with turned columns of marble, gilding. Fantastic. This boss, which is a part of a ceiling, shows a medieval device. I'm not sure which one it is. This is a room. It's the Queen's robing room. Queen's robing room. You can see a beautiful ceiling. Fine paintings. And electric lighting. There would have been gas and electric when that place was first built. These lovely tiles on the floor. And natural light as well. The Royal Gallery. So I'm just going through, picking out things of interest. These are battle scenes. Trafalgar. You have a reference to Victoria, Henry VIII. The Spanish Armada with the crescent-shaped Spanish fleet, outnumbering the tiny, tiny English fleet. Pomp and ceremony, wigs, beefeaters, the fantastic chair with the stone of Scone from Scotland in, which has been returned to Scotland. So that is an ancient chair. So really this video is about the fact the French were heavily into England, literally, and the legacy was this architectural hangover which persisted for 1,000 years after they got here in 1066. It has a very religious look, I think, this building inside, even though it's not a religious building. That is the old Houses of Parliament at Westminster. Westminster Hall pre-existed the modern Houses of Parliament. That is still in use, that beautiful building. Started in 1393. They were very good at these vaults, as you can see. This is a lovely photograph. This shows the terrace by the Thames of the House of Commons, taken in 1902, and it shows Indian soldiers, see, uniformed, British era, British Army in India, soldiers who were attending the coronation of Edward VII. And the Queen's mother, the Queen Mother, who died 20, 30 years ago, was the last Empress of India. People forget. Big Ben, the tower holding Big Ben, and the Victoria Tower, the square tower at the other end, which is actually bigger. This is the building I was talking about with the wrongly coloured metal roof. On top of this main building, the tiles are huge. They're like the size of a tabletop, but they're actually made of cast iron, so that they were using modern materials in the building, rather like the Tower Bridge. So we've looked at the book, we've had a chat about it. I've digressed terribly. I hope that's been interesting. Thank you.